All right, welcome to the Explainer. Today we're going to unearth the lost grandeur of one of history's absolute most magnificent, yet somehow totally overlooked kingdoms. We're talking about the Vijayanagara Empire. Let's dive right into this.
So here's a question for you. How do we actually know what India's greatest medieval empire looked like? I mean, if you visit the site in southern India today, the local ruins are, well, they're absolutely breathtaking. But they really only tell half the story. To see this living, breathing metropolis as it actually was, we've got to look through a completely different lens.
Here's our roadmap for today. We'll start by looking through the eyes of strangers, then explore the grandeur of the capital and check out its role as a hub of global trade. After that, we'll experience the spectacular Mahanami Festival, uncover their advanced engineering and administration, and finally, look at a legacy in ruins.
Okay, let's kick things off with Section 1 through Eyes of Strangers. Now, what's really interesting about this is that to truly understand the empire at its absolute peak, we're relying on some pretty unique guides. Just look at the sheer diversity of visitors who came here. We've got Abdur-Razak, who is an ambassador from Persia, Domingo Paes, a Portuguese horse trader, and Afanasy Nikitin, a Russian merchant. You know, these guys weren't just passing tourists. They were astute, boots-on-the-ground observers documenting a booming, incredibly complex society.
We're really going to lean heavily on these two Portuguese travelers right here, Domingo Paes and Fernão Nunes. Writing between 1520 and 1537, they gave us the most vivid, high-definition accounts of King Krishnadevaraya's golden age. And here's the kicker. Because they traded highly prized Arabian horses to the military, they basically scored unprecedented VIP access to the royal court. They gave us a literal front-row seat to the empire's inner workings.
Moving right along to Section 2, Grandeur of the Capital.
Let's take a look at the physical layout of the capital, what we know today as Hampi. When Domingo Paes first laid eyes on this place, he was just utterly awestruck. He famously wrote that it was, quote, as large as Rome and very beautiful to the sight. Just imagine that for a second. The sprawling Indian metropolis completely rivaled the greatest, most famous cities of Renaissance Europe, at least in the eyes of a well-traveled European merchant. To really wrap your head around the sheer, massive scale of the city, let's compare it to that European benchmark. The Persian envoy, Abdur-Razak, actually noted that the city was protected by an astonishing 7 concentric rings of ramparts. 7. And enclosed within those massive walls were beautiful lakes, lush open gardens, and broad roads spanning an estimated 64 square miles. It was this brilliant marvel of medieval urban planning that just left visitors completely spellbound.
Which brings us to Section 3, Hub of Global Trade.
So, you might be wondering, what on earth funded all this magnificent urban sprawl and giant defensive architecture? Well, the empire was deeply, deeply connected to the world through bustling coastal ports. Take Basrur, for example. It was known as the rice port par excellence. Ports like Basrur and Mangalore acted as these booming international gateways, just absolutely teeming with seafaring merchant vessels rolling in from Greece, Arabia, Egypt, and Portugal.
The crucial point here is that this was the complete opposite of some isolated kingdom. Their docks were literally flooded with luxury imports. We're talking highly sought-after Arabian and Khorasan horses, delicate musk and thick fur brought all the way over from China, and all of this was eagerly exchanged for incredibly valuable Indian spices. This deeply globalized medieval economy was the real engine driving immense, almost unfathomable wealth straight into the heart of the capital.
Now, let's step into the cultural side of things with Section 4, the spectacular Mahanavami Festival.
With all that crazy wealth flowing in, the empire's cultural life reached its absolute climax during this specific festival. Paes and Nunes describe it as a total sensory overload. For 9 straight days at the Royal House of Victory, the entire city exploded into a vibrant spectacle. In fact, the Portuguese traders claimed it was totally unmatched by anything they had ever witnessed back in Europe.
Just picture this, the streets thundering with elaborately decorated elephants and massive cavalry parades. There were intense wrestling matches, dramatic theatrical presentations, and even massive firework displays lighting up the night sky. But actually, let's be real, this wasn't just a lavish party. It was a highly calculated projection of military strength and cultural dominance. They were putting the whole shebang on full display to intimidate and awe visiting diplomats and vassal rulers.
Let's move on and see how this all builds together in Section 5, Advanced Engineering and Administration. Listen, you simply cannot sustain that extraordinary level of wealth,
massive population size, and wild pageantry without some seriously robust, hidden systems holding the whole thing together. Their administrative hierarchy was absolutely meticulous. While the king obviously held centralized power, the empire was smartly broken down into 6 provinces. These were governed by viceroys or nayakas, who handled civil, military, and judicial authority. Then, zooming in further, vital village units were managed by a patil or headman, working right alongside 12 specialized artisans known as baludidars.
And beyond just their administrative genius, their engineering was, well, it was next level. To guarantee an agricultural surplus and keep the urban center stable in what's honestly a pretty challenging arid landscape, they pulled off some amazing feats. They built a massive dam on the Tungabhadra River, constructed an incredible 40-kilometer canal, and designed these huge water tanks featuring beautifully decorative Nandi spouts. Seriously, this advanced hydraulic engineering was the true lifeblood of the entire city.
Finally, we arrive at Section 6, a legacy in ruins.
The contrast between the incredibly vibrant past we just explored and the present day is frankly striking. It's a story of a rapid rise and a really devastating fall. Founded back in 1336, the empire dazzled its early visitors in the 1400s and reached its absolute peak under King Krishnadevaraya around 1520. But then, in 1565, a combined attack by the Deccan Sultanates at the Battle of Talikota dealt a massive military defeat. The great capital fell, and unfortunately, it never recovered.
Today, that once bustling metropolis of Vijayanagara is the UNESCO World Heritage Site of Hampi. It's a landscape of hauntingly beautiful granite ruins. And you know, when you walk through those empty stone monuments today, it's really the vivid, enthusiastic travelogues of strangers, those merchants from Portugal, Russia, and Persia, that truly breathe life back into the cold stones.
It really makes you think about the relentless passage of time, doesn't it? So, what future empires will one day be pieced together from our own digital travelogues and social media posts? It's a pretty profound thought to chew on as you explore the countless layers of human history.
Well, thank you so much for joining me on this journey through the Vijayanagara Empire. If you found this explainer as fascinating as I do, please make sure to add subscribe to Histroholic to your to-do list right now. Seriously, do it. We've got plenty more focused, structured history explainers coming your way to spark that curiosity. I'll catch you next time.